All right, it cut me off on the last video, so this is going to be part 2 of the introduction to Leah, getting to know me so you can know the person that is giving advice and doing all these, I guess, self-help or advice videos and painting and stuff. So we left off on the video telling about my life. We were at the part with my father. So my mother was very abusive when I was growing up. I lived with her till 7. My father went to prison when I was 3. He was big time like gangster guy, and con artist, really good artist too. Drug dealer. He got a life sentence in prison when I was 3 years old, I believe. If I'm telling the story correctly, I think I am. And I believe a life sentence back then was 15 years. And I would write the warden of every prison I think that he went to as I grew up, asking them to please let my daddy out of jail. And he did end up paroling out early, and I would go see him. They pat you down, and I'd get to go to the vending machines. But I visited him only through prison, from what I can remember, until I was 11, almost 12 years old. He got out. He served a little over 8 years for just that time. He's been more than that. That was just 8 years back to back. So I didn't really have him around, and my mother, when she was around, she was just, really abusing us. So I didn't really have any parents. I never knew love from a parent. So when I start teaching on the love stuff and relationships and family issues and things like that, you can know that I know those lows. I know those lows. And I don't try to belittle anybody's experience. But I've not found anyone with a story quite like mine at all. So I can relate. I went through foster care, ward of the state, ran away. They put me in youth detention center when I was 13 years old because I kept running away from the foster home. And because they didn't really want to deal with me, they sent me from there to boot camp, where you like have to bend over and cough when you first go in the shower. And they spray you with this lice stuff, and I mean, you're left, pick up your left, you need a little help. You're marching and everything. And Pelham, Georgia, I believe, is where I went. And I did almost 6 months there, and then they found me at a foster home, and some of them were all right, some of them were, but that wasn't love. That was just safety almost, somewhere to stay. So I literally had no one most of my life at all. Not a happy birthdays, not a Merry Christmas, not as a kid, where is she at? None of that. And I dealt with the childhood part of it a good bit, and I processed it. Lately, I've been dealing with some of this again, and I'm going to get into that. Just to rush through my life, I got adopted out of foster care by my father's brother and moved to Colorado Springs. So I didn't go to high school here. I went to high school at Wasson High School in Colorado, which was Columbine's rival school. So I was there when the big Columbine killings happened. That was really sad as well. I did all I seen my parents do in order to be able to deal with the pain and rejection and never having anyone, no one at all, And I did drugs, and I drank, and at 15, I was down in a bottle of gin with no chaser, at 15 years old, I had just about, I would say, tried every drug there was to try that was made then. But for whatever reason, my body builds a really high tolerance to drugs and alcohol really fast. So I've never really had a drug grab me and keep me unless I wanted it to. Because it just didn't numb the feelings anymore. It was just, there's only so much you can do and it not affect you. The only thing that really did grab me throughout the years in trying to mask my pain was alcohol. I was alcoholic for 10 years. And not a lot of people know that, and then maybe a lot of people do. But I was a functioning alcoholic. I was a broker for off and on for 4 years, and a marketer. I've held very respectful jobs, but when I woke up in the morning, my hands were shaking. By the time I got home, I had to have a drink. I would tell myself not stopping at the gas station to get beer on my way home, and I would cry, and I wanted so bad to not drink, but after so many years of doing it, it was just I had to turn into that gas station. And I couldn't write, I couldn't draw, I couldn't paint. All of the things that I loved to do, I no longer did, because when you're just shitty drunk at home by yourself to not feel, much aren't going to do very well on a painting or writing for that matter. And I stayed that way for about 10 years. It was sad. But prior to me becoming a full-blown alcoholic, that was in my early 20s, I had met my children's father after I got out of Teen Challenge. When I was 17 years old, I came back here from Colorado Springs with my real father came up there, and we rode back together. And watching my parents' lives, I got to see what they were like a little bit. And I said, I don't want this. I will not be this. I'd rather die. So I put myself in Teen Challenge, and I got a full scholarship there. I had to wait to be on the waiting list. And I had to wait till I turned 18, I think, or right at 18, to go into the adult program. And thank God for them. I'm not really big anymore on religious forced recovery centers, religious-based, where you got to do this religion to go. However, what they did for my life, I mean, I have no idea where I would be without the foundation that they did give me. And I'm thankful I was smart enough to choose that, to choose to go there. And I did 15 months residential rehabilitation. But like I said, drugs really didn't grab me. It wasn't really drugs. It's not the drugs. It's not the alcohol. It's not the sex. It's not working too much. It's not the gossiper. It's not the bad habits or the addictions. It's what's inside. It is not the drugs and alcohol. Maybe to make it worse. Maybe to make it better. Who knows? But it's the pain on the inside of that person that's ruining their lives, that people say. And sometimes they don't even know. Subconsciously, they don't even know what's wrong with them. They don't even know really that they're hurting. They just know they did it once or twice, 3, 4, 5 times, and then it became a habit. And they're subconsciously sleepwalking, just medicating so that they can survive. Recently, I had a drug rehabilitation program reach out to me that's coming to Columbus. It's called Thor, and they have a church and ministry and everything in Florida. And they said that God told him to reach out to me and get my help with this drug rehabilitation curriculum and just getting my advice and everything, consulting. And I'm excited to help. However, I did let him know that my views on drugs and alcohol and places such as that are very different, as I do hold ever gratefulness towards and for Teen Challenge, and support them and donate to them anytime that I see them standing outside of a door. I do not agree with some of the things, some of the things, the way that it's taught or the way that it was done when I was there, and the way that different religions handle stuff like that. So I did let him know this, of those people that you want to get off of drugs with your rehab preacher, do you know how many of them may have committed suicide had they not had the drugs and alcohol to get them through a period in their life until they were able to deal with the issue on the inside, or the pain, or whatever the trauma that they had. And yeah, drugs and alcohol can make it worse, but I would have been dead had I not had the 10 years with the alcohol, or had I not had my spurts with different things to numb me for a little while, or give me some type of relief. I would have committed suicide for sure. I mean, absolutely. So I see both sides. I am an INTJ, which is the rarest personality type in the world, and it makes up about 20%. It's the Myers-Briggs personality test. It's widely accepted and talked about. It's real popular right now. Look it up. Test yourself if you would like. It's the most accurate I've seen ever depict me, and it was like to the T. So of that 20% of the population that has my personality type, I think it said like only 8% chance of it being a female. And my personality type leads with intuition, first and foremost. However, I now call it tuition because I am awakened. I understand and see things a lot differently. I have a whole different perspective, but not just one, several. So I can see through the eyes of many, and I can see through the eyes of my experiences personally. So I lead with intuition, and then on the side of each one equally is fact and feeling. So I have to have equal fact and feeling. I'm not just led by my emotions. I'm not just led by science. Equal. So it would be like church and state, or science and magic. I'm half and half, but led by intuition. Intuition is your first thought. The first thought you had about someone, something, your gut instinct. The first thought. Always the first. I have learned that my intuition has never, ever steered me wrong, and many a times I did not follow it. Almost every time up until, the past year, I would have just